How far are you going?
About 30 years.
Welcome back to the Cinema Clubhouse podcast. I am Travis.
And I'm Will.
And today we have a very special guest with us. Damian, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how's it going?
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Today we are going to do another recasting. And this time, Will, which movie are we tackling?
Well, we had to do Back to the Future, Travis.
Back to the Future. Of course, that's why Damian's here.
I love Back to the Future, so this ought to be interesting.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. Now, the reason we do this, Damian, is so that someone down the road will never do this.
Yeah.
And hopefully they watch us and understand, like, yeah, this would be a bad idea.
So
that's the reason.
So badly that they're like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're going to be stoked because I think I made sure with this cast this will never get greenlit.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, then this will be a successful video, guys. All right, so here's how we do it. We're going to go one at a time,
Okay.
talk about our picks, talk about why we chose them, try to defend them, and go from there. So, Damian, since you are our guest,
Oh, I get to go first.
you get to go first.
Wow.
Oh, danger. For both of you.
Danger is first. And I think we're going to start with, who should we start with?
You know what? I think we start at the top. We got to go Marty.
Okay.
We'll work our way down. Nothing works without Marty.
That's true.
McFly,
Okay.
the lead of the movie.
I like it.
So
Do you mean Martina McFly?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
no.
I'm not sure, Damian. Is that what we mean?
We do mean that because I jumped right out and said Isabella Moner. If you don't know who that is Dora the Explorer. I think she's about 24 years old, which puts her pretty much in line, along the lines of where Marty was. Because wasn't he 24 when he filmed this?
Something like that, yeah.
All right, so she puts it around the same time frame. She was in Dora the Explorer.
Just
She's
to clarify, the
Hawk Girl.
animated Dora the Explorer.
No,
Oh,
the live action.
Okay.
She's also Hawk Girl in the upcoming Superman this summer.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you might know her as the little girl from the Transformers movies.
Look at this.
with
Damon
Mark
just went
Wahlberg.
swinging.
Yeah.
I know.
So I went with her specifically because I feel like she does have some comedic chops.
Yeah.
I think that it would be a nice little twist on it. And I think if done correctly, which we all at this table know it won't be, it could be a successful movie with her in the lead.
Wow.
Interesting.
I like it. That's completely, in our heads, we were like, all right, this is who we think Damian's going to pick. So this is why we're going to go this way.
Interesting. Who did you think I was going to pick?
I mean,
Do you want to say, or did you pick them ultimately?
I haven't decided yet. Once it gets to me, I'll decide who
I
Marty.
promise you it would never have been Tom Holland.
Yeah, and that's what we didn't want,
Yeah.
because that's obvious.
Yeah, it's the easy one.
And it's upsetting because I do think he would play Marty decently.
You know what's
Oh, yeah.
you know what's not obvious? Isabella Moner.
Yeah, that's right.
I literally I
You threw a
wanted
wrench
to
right at the beginning.
I wanted to kind of tap into what I'm seeing as far as who is like hot right now. Like
Yeah.
right? Like who are the names that are kind of up and coming? Who would make sense? Kind of a dream cast. But then at the same time I tried to not overdo it because of budget constraints. I was like, you can't get every great
A-lister.
kid
Yeah.
That's true.
in every show. So maybe dial it back a bit.
Damian, I gave you no credit, and that you swung for the fences and you got it, and you surprised me, and now I'm intrigued to watch your movie already.
Right?
I don't know if it's gonna be good, but it's definitely gonna be something.
I mean, if we go beat for beat, might not be, but
Yeah.
I think I told them before it started. I also recast the car, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I don't think we recast the car, but give us time. The
I'm open.
episode is long.
I need to digest Martina McFly at this point.
Yeah.
Martina McFly. Yeah.
Isn't that a country singer?
Yeah,
I
Martina.
think that's Martina McBride.
Okay,
Yes.
well, close enough.
Yeah.
McBride. Okay.
Okay. There's Damian's pick. All right.
Okay.
Off to the races. All right, Will, you want to go?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay.
I went a little bit more traditional with my pick. No.
Sorry.
I feel
broke
like
the show.
I feel like mine of your picks will be more traditional than Damian's.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. We didn't give all the same criteria to everybody for casting this, but the way I approach it is basically it's the same movie, we're just recasting right now. So I kind of went into the Rolodex. Casting for pretty much the whole cast was really difficult because typically I try to like stay within like the age range of like who the originals were. And, most of the original cast were in their early 20s playing high schoolers, typical Hollywood. I tried to find someone in that age range that I thought would fit. It just never boiled down to that. And so had to start looking for actors that just are younger looking, still not like, way past their prime, but my pick is not in his 20s anymore, but he most recently did play a high schooler. So I think he's still kind of got it. Mine is Darren Barnett. Most people, he's not like a mainstream name at this point. Most people that would know him from a show called Never Have I Ever on Netflix. It's a high school show primarily, but he kind of plays.
Is there time travel in this show?
Not in this show, no. But
I was gonna say then he is perfect for this.
Yeah, was kind of looking when we're looking for your Marty. You kind of have to have like a combination of the cool factor, but also you can see him being this nerdy guy that hangs out with an older, mad scientist. And I think this guy kind of captures that. He plays kind of the cool kid that everyone's swooning over in high school, like the most popular kid in school. But, as the layers kind of get pulled back on him during the show, you kind of see there's a lot more to him. He's kind of got nerdy quirks to him. And so I think he's really got that personality. You can't really match Michael J. Fox's personality per se, but I think he could come close. And especially like once you surround him with the rest of the cast that I picked, I think he'd be.
What's the show again?
The show's called Never Have I Ever. Really, really great show. I'd recommend watching if you haven't seen it. But it's on
Got
Netflix.
me with one I didn't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I
That's
think
what Will does.
I think some people. Yeah, I think some people would recognize him by his face. He's starting to pop up in more movies and stuff. But
all right, that's interesting. Definitely not familiar with your pick.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's good or bad.
It'll get a little better from here, but.
All right. Well, I hate my pick, so that's okay.
All right.
But I've struggled with it the whole time. My problem is the age thing. The early 20s just really I didn't find my Marty in that realm. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get out of that, but try to stay close. And I picked my Marty thinking it was good. Then I rewatched Back to the Future and I was like, I can see it, but I also can't. But it's what I picked. So here we go. I went with Joe Curry from Stranger Things. He does seem a bit older, but I think the rest of my cast will make the age not be a thing because they'll seem the same age in high school. So I definitely think he could pull it off. He kind of has the Marty elements in Stranger Things.
For sure.
I know he can do the guitar part because he does play guitar in real life, but I think he could bring some of the charisma. Fun fact.
I did consider that.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I was on the same page with you, but then I was like, a little old.
He seems a little old, and he seems kind of tall. I mean, Michael J. Fox seemed small.
Oh, yeah. He was definitely short, yeah.
And so that might change the dynamic, but I think he could do it. And I think he's definitely
just Tom Cruise it. You get a box.
yeah.
Have everybody else stand on.
Not for him. He's like Yoda. He's just in a lower stage. Everybody else is up here.
Yeah, just make him a puppet.
Yeah. So that's why I went with Marty. I think he could do it. Again, it kind of changes things, but I think he could pull off both sides of Marty, like the nerdy, but also could be the cool guy.
He's got the swagger.
I think
that's for sure.
I had elements of that too in the show where like when you got down to who he was, he kind of opened up.
Yeah, and I think the reason he seems older is because he's cast with all the kids from Stranger Things. So like, this guy's way older than high school, but he's really not.
He kind of started off playing the
Well, they're all old now.
Yeah, they're all older now. But so that's my Marty. All right, so we each have a Marty.
Okay.
some of us don't have a Marty,
Some of us have a Martina.
Some of us have a Martina.
which I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Damon, I'm so happy you came to this. This
No.
is great.
Well, I wanted to,
interested.
make it interesting.
That's definitely interesting.
Is the rest of the cast gender swaps?
It is.
Interesting.
It is. I
Okay.
went with the theme. I went full on with the theme.
Heck yeah.
So,
All right.
I was like, you couldn't just do one and then make it weird. Because
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure Hollywood is ready
Sure.
for like a adoption scenario.
yeah.
You know, like I thought about it. I was like, that's way too complex.
Yeah.
You want it to be the essence of the movie.
I mean, less so Hollywood, but more so the time frame when the movie takes place.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Like,
and you have to make considerations for that too, because I was like, I graduated in 1995. So that's when this movie would take place, right? It's
Right.
2025. Now we go 30 years back. I thought to myself, I know a lot about 1995.
yeah.
And I could make some really fun dynamics there because of how we used to talk.
Right.
And how that is not acceptable now.
Yeah.
So there would be I think it would add an element of humor. So where are we going next?
All right. I mean, I think obviously we got to go Doc.
Yeah.
Let's get that
Let's get
pairing
Doc out of the way.
out of the way and see how that chemistry goes.
All right. For Doc, I needed somebody who this is going to sound bad, but I'm going to say it
Go for it.
because it's just who I am.
Oh, we don't care here.
But I needed to pick somebody who is like, again, somebody's going to get mad. Not on anybody's radar as like a weird girl on girl hookup,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? To keep it like 10 and 2 and people not having the conversation that they have. Why is Doc hanging around with Marty?
Right.
Right. So, and I wanted to pick somebody who wouldn't overact it because I wanted somebody from SNL. And I started going through the women in SNL and I was like, okay, we've tried all of them in Ghostbusters and it did not work. But I thought to myself, who could pull this off? Who would be viable? Who would be fun? And I picked Tina Fey.
Interesting.
I like that.
I thought to myself, it would be a great dynamic. She could play quirky. She wouldn't be over the top with it,
Right.
Yeah.
but she'd still have a really good time doing it. And I think the actor having a good time doing it is going to elevate the cast around her. So she can kind of be the beacon to my much younger cast.
Yeah.
That's good. And I feel like that's what she does, though. Like,
Yeah.
she can bring people to the level it needs to be where it doesn't feel like anybody's stepping out of, what they're supposed to do.
And
for that movie.
she did Mean Girls.
Yeah.
So I feel like she's got she has the heartbeat of the younger generation. So that makes it seem smart that she would hang out with
Yeah.
Martina McFly.
Plus,
Yeah.
I think like it's hard to match the energy of Christopher Lloyd specifically. It's almost like a Aladdin genie situation when they did Will Smith, and then like you're not going to get a Robin Williams. Like you're just not going to get Robin Williams. So do something a little bit different. You still got to have that energy, but it's a different kind of energy. So I can kind of see where you're going with Tina Fey. I've seen her do like the more exaggerated role. She doesn't do it very often. She's usually just kind of the more reserved, like snarky comment kind of comedian. But
That's what I need her to be, is a
Yeah.
little bit more deadpan,
yeah,
Mhm.
to like not be self-aware that she's being funny. And I felt like, your Kate McKinnon's, your
a little over.
Yeah,
they
there was-
would just be over the top, and you'd
Yeah.
be like, cool.
You'd kind of be scared of Doc. Like, all right, chill out, man.
Yeah, like,
Just chill out a little bit. Okay, I like it. See, Damian, I think the way you approach this is the way that to if this were to happen, kind of reset it.
Mhm.
And where you're like, we're not, so then you don't compare it apples to apples. Like, that guy really wasn't Marty. Like, they
which
tried.
kind of breaks your rules.
It does.
I understand.
I like it.
I think, but honestly, there's some beats in the movie where it's almost impossible. That's why I cast the car.
Mhm.
It's almost impossible to do a beat for beat.
Yeah.
It would have to be beat for beat, but time period relevant, and that's what makes it a little bit trickier.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
And we've talked about this before. Like when doing these recastings, obviously, like even if the movie is the exact same plot wise, same script, the performance is going to make it at least a different flavor. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm buying ticket to see Damian's Back to the Future. I'm intrigued.
Well, in 2025, it'll just be us three watching.
Well, so be it. All right, Will. Keep the train going.
Yeah, I also went the comedian route. Again, it's hard to match the energy of Christopher Lloyd, so I went with someone who I could see as more like the mad scientist, more so than just the extreme personality. So my pick for Doc is Jim Gaffigan. When I was going through, he was one name that just came up, and it was like, not every pick has this when I'm going through, but he was just one that was like, I already see it. Like he is.
That's
Doc.
a great pick.
And he's been doing a lot more movie roles lately. He's becoming a better actor. He's obviously known as a good stand-up comedian, but he's kind of been stretching his limits in recent years. And I think this would be a really cool role to see him in, just like really stretch and kind of like be that second anchor of the movie. And I totally buy him as the mad scientist. I see, I see the relationship between him and Darren. And yeah, you don't want to match that exact Christopher Lloyd energy, but he's just got something where
I think he'd bring it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of his humor, he would definitely bring it. And then like he prides himself on like being a really good dad. I think he's gonna gaggle at children. I think he's only 8 or something.
Yeah.
Like I think he would play really good off of that younger.
And you
casting.
almost have to like you kind of said with the Tina Fey pick, like you have to believe that this high schooler would hang out with this person,
right?
And that's stretched a little bit in the original too. Like,
yeah.
I don't totally buy it, but it's like we'll go with it.
That big speaker,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, he just came there to play practice.
He just wanted to play Power of Love.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Will. I feel like we've done a good job of being dynamic and not your off the shelf list of names.
Yeah.
And again, that's what we try to do with these episodes. Is like we don't want the 10 actors that Hollywood would consider for this. We want to go deeper than that to try to make a.
And we're definitely not doing.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're even close. So they have nothing to worry about.
So far, the picks are like not. I don't think this Hollywood would be like.
Yeah.
This is why you guys are on a podcast.
Yeah, this is why you're podcasting. All right, so my pick, Doc, was the one I had the most list of names because there's lots of people I plugged in like, oh yeah, I can see it. But then once I paired a Marty, I was like, oh, I don't see it anymore. And I think they really go hand in hand. It's not just like this character and this character. You really have to play into what is that dynamic going to be because that drives the whole movie. And like you said, the believability of them hanging out and, Marty doing stuff that he asked. Like, what is that? So this one was all over the place for me. I'll have some honorable mentions to mention later that almost made it, but just didn't quite. But the one I ended up going with, it's not quite as old in the age gap between Marty and him, but you can age him up. And I think he's a really good actor and could pull it off. I went with Robert Pattinson to play Doc because I think he could bring like a kind of more insane level. But if he needs to pull it back, he can pull it back a little bit.
Not my Batman. Not my Doc. Hashtag.
We're just here to piss each other off.
Yeah, it's like, well, all me and Will talked about today is like, all right, what will Damian hate us the most for?
I don't think it's a bad pick because phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Doc, though.
Yeah, I just could see
Explain.
it. Okay, I'll explain it. Here's what I looked at his last, handful of movies that he's done. And I saw different ranges from Tenet to Batman, just like different things he did where you're just like, I didn't know he could really do that.
Have you ever seen Good Times?
Yeah, Good Times is the movie that really, really made me feel like he could get to a level like this type of thing. Not that he plays a mad scientist at all.
No, but he goes off
the
rails.
Yeah, he goes for it. And I just wanted to put someone in there that could create something completely new and wouldn't have to rely on the quirkiness of Doc to pull it off.
Would you make him do the American accent, or would you let him?
I think you have to.
I think I would. But I don't know.
I almost think it would be fun to go the other way and just let him do
He's
the
like
normal
British.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let him do.
He's
the
just
British
there
accent.
for some reason.
I saw him on Kimmel, or maybe it was one of the Jimmys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They were talking. He was talking about his diet for Batman,
Uh-huh.
and he had me rolling. So now I'm kind of reconsidering it. I'm like, wait a second. He probably could pull the humor off. I bet you he's really great at physical comedy. He just looks like he could pull it off.
I mean, have you seen Twilight?
It's pretty funny.
I mean,
well, I'm just saying.
I'm not. Unfortunately,
Unfortunately, someone that started in that and kind of got labeled like, oh, this guy's not a real actor.
Yeah.
He's in these type of movies. Well, if you're an actor starting out, who wouldn't take a movie like that? But then when you saw him in other things, you're like, oh, wow, this guy, he brings it like a lot more than you give him credit for. And I think, you need to watch Good Times. He is phenomenal in that. Where you see him in a light that you're just like, whoa, like you don't see him in it at all. Like he is the character the whole time, and there's never like, what's the Twilight guy doing in here? Which some actors you get stuck. You're like, I can't see. Like Tom Holland, I struggle with. I can't see him past Spider-Man because he brings those elements into most things. So you're just like, it's just Peter Parker. Like so. But yeah, mine is definitely not on anybody's list for Doc. I guarantee you probably none of my list was. But I think him and Joe would play off each other really well. And there would be a fun dynamic.
Yeah, they would almost have like a cousins vibe kind of.
Yeah. It would feel more like an older brother than a father type figure, I think.
Yeah.
And so it would change the dynamic, but I can see it. Yeah. So that's why I went that way.
Nice.
It does make me think of somebody else because I'm just like, I almost wonder what Gyllenhaal would look like in that role too.
Yeah.
He was one of my honorable mentions.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I won't ruin any more. But it, like you said that, and we started kind of like talking through it, and I was like, that's the same reason Gyllenhaal would probably nail it too.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about these, until you get into it and start thinking about the whole story, not just like that guy looks like him, check. Like, I'm putting him in the whole story. I'm playing the whole thing out. Like, all right, how does he handle this? How do they handle that? What would they bring to this? And it's like, it's more in depth. Like when we did our first recasting, it was way more in depth than I thought. I was like, oh, you just got to pick. But then you're just like, yeah, but their chemistry would suck. So you have to think about all of that.
Yeah.
Because, and again, we have a movie to judge it against. Mm-hmm. So like when you're making it for the first time, and you can try stuff, it's no big deal. But it's like, we already have a Back to the Future. So we're subconsciously going to be like, did it hit these things? And so that's how I was pointing out. And I wanted to go, I don't know, just completely different with, I feel like Marty and Doc are both not your typical choices.
No.
None of us are really.
Yeah, no.
But, and that's, it makes it a new movie, but still keeps true to what
it does. You're originally sitting to cast these guys. They ended up with, what's his name?
For what?
The alternate Marty.
The other Marty.
I can't think of it. Elliot something.
No.
I can see it.
I can see his dumb face, but like
you'll see it.
You end up with,
I'll throw it in there.
Sometimes you end up with who you end up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right.
Happy accidents.
The first two are cast, and I feel pretty good about all of them. They're different.
Yeah.
We have three completely different movies.
Yeah, they're wildly different.
With the same script.
Yeah.
Basically. All right, cool. So now I think we're getting to George, the dad.
All right.
It's gonna be the next one.
I'm gonna say this because it needed to be said.
Okay.
I didn't change. It seemed redundant to do a sex swap for them, but I did consider. I do think the role swap has to happen because of what happens. So George, I went with. I'm gonna ruin this poor kid's name. Zolo Maradunya
from Cobra Kai.
From Cobra Kai.
Nice.
I think he could play both. He could play the nerd. He's gonna have to get rid of that 5 o'clock shadow that he's been rocking. Right, the Blue Beetle is gonna have.
He's
to
actually
do
surprisingly younger though.
But I think he can pull it off.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
I think he's only like
off.
22.
And I also had to consider, because he does look a little bit older because of all the facial hair, he can pull off the older as well, because they have to in that movie play the older role and the younger role, which kind of defeats the purpose of my Lorraine, but we'll get to her later. But I would think she would play well, and
So in your version, Lorraine is the one that's got to court George in the past.
Well, I'm thinking of 1995.
Okay.
We'll do this briefly because I don't want to take up too much time with it. But like a brief plot point that I thought of is that she's got to go back. She accidentally meets George, and then George is just like any other teenage boy who's like, oh, teenage girl, I'm in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lorraine kind of falls out of the picture, even though, they're in book club or whatever together, and he kind of dug her. But then he's like, oh, this girl, because he meets her by chance.
Right.
Some of the beats of the, what was the word I'm looking for? Sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Ending with George in the 1950s.
How'd you meet your husband? Well,
so I figured that had to be flipped a little bit. So she has to kind of
resurface. Almost.
Yeah, she's almost got to kind of she's all that get back on the radar.
Yeah,
I got it
of the person. Yeah, so
okay.
That was the only thing because I didn't think getting them into some weird sexual encounter would just be weird. But I do think there's precedent for a boy in 1995.
Yeah,
who would just be like, dude.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damian, you continue to amaze me.
Yeah.
I told you I love movies. If you recall, we had a movie trivia that I won with Bill Paxton. So
I will never forgive you because I did so good the entire time.
I just had to.
That's the only one I missed.
Right place, right time.
Yeah, Jello's definitely a cool pick. I was actually considering him for Marty, but. I can see him playing the George role. He's definitely, he hasn't been in a lot of stuff at this point, just pretty much like Cobra Kai and Blue Beetle and some other, bit TV parts, but he can definitely play. I mean, he starts off as the nerdy kid, so I can see him playing George, just being kind of like you said, dumbstruck by Lorraine, then,
blinders on.
Yeah. Exactly. So no, I like
good.
that.
It's Dora.
I don't know. I don't know.
Perfect. All right. Well,
great. That makes me sound like a creep. That's not what I meant.
Well, that'll come out in post.
Will it?
Leave it there.
I forgot to tell you, I do not edit anymore. This is live streaming.
Yeah.
I will. Let's hear your George.
So my George, George in the original movie, he's very over the top, stereotypical nerdy kid in the 50s. I went with a little more subdued actor. Seen him kind of play the nerdy role before, just not to the exaggerated extent that Crispin Glover is doing. But the guy I went with for George is Alex Wolff. A lot of people will know him from Hereditary, the new Jumanji movies. He's kind of the lead kid in that one. But he's got that George sort of look to him where he plays the nerd pretty well. I see him kind of just being really awkward around girls and would portray that situation, that the romantic, meet cute with Lorraine, well, I guess you can't really call it a meet cute. He was stalking her from a tree, but he could play that just awkward teen. He's done it a number of times, and again, not as exaggerated as Crispin Glover, but I just see him again being a good nerdy awkward teenager, but also just kind of matching, genetically speaking, him and Lorraine kind of would look like they would have Darren as a child. So that's kind of why
that's what I was thinking too. With the ones I picked, I was
it's got a somewhat.
I mean, that was not that important. Movie magic, and
which again is going to ruin my Lorraine pick if you think too long about it. But we'll get there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's definitely a different direction. I think, and more.
This one he won't be possessed by a demon. But...
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we hope.
Yeah,
the movie stays the same. Demon.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. This one, again, the Marty dynamic with his parents is tough because the people you didn't pick for Marty are now the people that fit the age criteria for the next step, but you're just I don't know if they could play quite that extreme, because his dad is very, skittish and like just a pushover. Everything, he doesn't stand up for himself. He's Crispin Glover, way over the top, nerdy. So I tried who could capture that, but still, maybe bring something new to it and not have to lean into that. So my pick was Freddie Highmore he's in Bates Motel and plays, he's in Finding Neverland. I feel like he's always played that kind of a nerdy, weird kind of character, especially like Norman Bates. He has those abilities, like doesn't quite understand the girl dynamic.
I can see George as Norman Bates.
yeah, that's what happens actually. Yeah, that's what this movie is. It's a prequel. Yeah. But no, he's my George, and I think Joe Curry going back and seeing his younger dad could just, I could see that dynamic really well. He definitely looks the part, and I think he could pull it off. I mean, I don't think the dad. I know when they go back to the future, he's a little more, not as nerdy and more. But it's not that over the top.
After things change.
Yeah, after he changes the past. But so that's my pick for George. I think, he seems the part. So that's kind of why he fell into it. But he did get changed after I finished the movie last night. I had another George. And when I finished the movie, I was like, yeah, he won. He's just better. Like, he's better at that. Like, he'd be better at that. So I think
I can definitely see him as that like shy kind of.
Well, yeah, and he's always that awkward, like his social skills are not very great in most things he's in, and you just, he always plays that skittish character. So, he fits the criteria for that perfect.
He kind of looks a little bit like Crispin Glover too, in a weird way.
He has that.
He has the hair, right?
He does have that feeling. So I think I'm surprised
he's got the.
I'm surprised that was the last one I picked, because he seems pretty obvious. But again, it's hard when you're going through the list of names. You're like, no. Like,
George, I think, was the hardest one to pick between George and Marty. But like you said earlier, I had a lot of Docs. Doc was kind of easier just because you weren't like beholden to like a specific age as much as the other characters. Yeah. And then a lot of Lorraine's too. I don't know if it's just that there's more well-known younger actresses these days than actors, but
All right, we're almost there.
Getting there.
Almost there. All right, Damian.
All right.
I'm really so excited for your next pick.
I've kind of been foreshadowing it just because it's.
Have you?
Depends on the edit. I went with Emma Myers. That is the foil to Wednesday. The roommate. She was also in that really great Netflix show where she solves the murder. I can't remember it for the life of me. Yeah. I thought I was gonna pull that up before I got here, and then I didn't do it. But I feel like she could fit it. She could play the role. I also needed to get somebody who was George-like. Because remember, mine is gender swapped. Yeah. Right. So I needed somebody who was going to be a pushover for my choice of Biff. Somebody that would get into confrontations with them, somebody who would back down from them, somebody who would ultimately not get along with that person. And then somebody who I felt like could play it. It's pushing it though, because she is really young. I think she's like 19. Maybe 23 at tops, but I don't know ages anymore because I'm an old man. So it's somewhere in there, but I feel like she could nail the role of being the kind of like introvert who kind of gets pushed around by the bully. The new girl kind of shows up. Yeah. And then it's like, what the heck's going on? So, yeah.
It's good. It's good. I like it. I can see that. Your cast is really coming together, Damian.
She's definitely like, I think a perfect encapsulation of like Georgifying Lorraine. Like she's got that like sweet, like innocent high school girl to her, but then you add the nerdiness that, she displayed in Wednesday. And
if you see her in the other role, it really makes sense because like, she's doing the high school role in there. Yeah. And there's definitely this dynamic where that exact thing happens, where she's almost getting bullied by this group. And you're like,
Yeah.
Like that kind of solidified it for me when I thought of it, because I was like, okay, let me think about
There's
the lore.
Lorraine.
Yeah.
Lorraine.
Lorraine.
I need Damian's list
Lord
and names for
Lorraine.
these characters when we're done with this.
Yeah.
All right, well, continue us on Lorraine.
It's Larry and Georgina, right?
Right.
Let's not overthink it, Lawrence.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, my Lorraine, I feel like she's been typecast in a lot of high school roles at this point. She's in her later 20s, but still kind of has that younger look to her. But I went with Catherine Newton as my Lorraine. She's been in a lot of things. Most recently, she was in Lisa Frankenstein. She was in Abigail. She was, a lot of people way back would know her from Supernatural. But she's popping up more and more these days. She's kind of like right, I think, on the brink of A-list status. Like she just needs that one like major role. But
Back
And
to
Back
the
to the
Future.
Future.
Back to the Future. That's it. That's her break.
We got it.
Yeah, but no, I think she's got that kind of Lorraine look to her. Like she's very multifaceted. I've seen her play different kinds of roles, from like good to bad, but she can play that kind of sweet, innocent Lorraine role. And again, I just looking at who my George is and who my Marty is, like she would make sense as being the mom in that situation. And yeah, I just think she's a really great actress. Probably, I don't know, maybe the most high profile name on my list. But yeah, I just think she'd be a good combination with Alex. Like to see what their dynamic is and how her and my Marty work together as well.
It's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
a really good one.
That's good. And again, when you're getting to this, you're like, all right, she's got to play this guy's mom.
Mm-hmm.
You got to believe that to some extent.
Yeah.
You can't just cast whoever and be like, yeah, we'll figure it out.
My pick's a little tight because it's like
A little.
oof, you're gonna have to. But
I could.
they're actors.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
The original Lorraine could do it.
Yeah.
She was way younger than all the prosthetics they put on her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all like 22,
Yeah.
23, like
Yeah.
they weren't high school age, but they were still young enough to where
They were-
it was
they were
hard to
Hollywood
age
high
them up.
school.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to do CGI. I prefer that this was practical. So
Yeah.
I prefer
I
makeup
prefer-
over,
like,
because
the
there's
CGI
always
things-
something janky with the lips,
Yeah.
and like you're like, it looked good until they started talking, and you're like,
yeah.
there's something that the upper lip does that the computer cannot figure out. So just, if you're gonna do that, have them not talk.
Kokai, when they showed Miyagi, I was like, what in the world is going on
Yeah.
right now? Oh no.
All right, so my Lorraine, she was definitely harder just because, again, finding the age range that fit, but also the look I was kind of going for based on the rest of the cast. I went with Daisy Edgar Jones. She's in Twisters most recently. She definitely has the look of Lorraine and that kind of like
That's a great
innocence
choice.
of Lorraine in the movie. And, you know, she definitely could play, you know, like when he's like, Mom, you're way different than I thought you were. You know, you're kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she could take it to that level, but also be as the older version, you know, kind of like,
Dial it back.
I would never did anything like that. And you believe her. I haven't seen her in a ton of stuff, but she's great in Twisters.
Yeah, she's really good.
And she, you know, I think she's slowly coming up and she's getting more
she was
and
like
more
the
things.
best. Honestly, like I with Glenn Powell,
Mhm.
Yeah.
love him, but she
Yeah.
was
She's
No, she outshined him.
Yeah,
And like she
100%.
stole his
every
movie.
scene. Yeah,
Because you're just like, oh, Glenn Powell's in this, and then you watch it, you're like,
I mean, she was the main character.
you're like, yeah, that was not Glenn
she
Powell's
was
movie.
the main character. I thought,
Oh, for sure.
or
Oh, yeah.
maybe it was just that. That's how good
No,
her
no,
acting
she-
was.
she
Where it
did-
was just like she was the main character.
No, she definitely was.
Yeah.
No, she's good, and I think she was in.
She was the Bill Paxton.
What other movie was she in? Where the crawdads lie.
I never
Sorry.
saw that one.
Yeah, she's good in that.
She's
She's
the
just
Bill
like,
Paxton.
she just has this like, some about her where you're just like, I don't know. And so she was like the first one I came up with.
You're
for
gonna
her.
ignore my Bill Paxton reference.
Yeah, I am.
All right.
Because I'm still so. it was almost 3 years ago, and I can't get over it.
That's good. Yeah, I love Daisy Edgar Jones. She's another one that's like, Twisters might be the one that elevates her, where she's like in everything from now on. But
Yeah.
I felt like that was a hard part too. Doing this casting was like, how many stars can you put in it? Like
Right.
you have to put a cap. So like I tried to reconsider, and that was part of the reason why I was like, okay, biggest names on my list are probably Martina,
Yeah.
Martina and George,
Yeah.
and it's tight because they're like borderline A-list.
Yep.
Well, when you're casting younger too, like you also don't run into like A-list actor as much either.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
so like that was kind of a barrier in and of itself. But yeah,
But yeah, I mean, hard. Like if you were to do something like Tom Holland, you may not get the other big names attached to your movie to continue it because of that.
yeah,
And so you kind of have to go more unknown or more under the radar. Like I feel like a lot of our picks are, they definitely, once you saw the movie and you're like, wow, yeah, they have it. And this might be that catapults them into A-lister, but you got to really dig deep to find that A-lister that's not quite discovered so you can fit them in a budget. Otherwise, this movie's way over budget before we started.
yeah.
All right, Biff.
Biff.
We got a Biff.
All right, Buford, Biff Tannen, who we'll probably have to name Beatrice,
Sure.
Of course.
right? And rather than go with Betty, because she's going to be a real mean one, we're going to call her Biff. So a lot of people hated Miss Marvel. Let's start there.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
I loved it.
And I'm going to tell you why I enjoyed it. You can tell me why you enjoyed it. I mean, I felt like it was just solid all around.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to bring politics or woke into this because
Bring it.
I think you both know me pretty well.
Mhm.
That you've heard some of the things that I've said in environments where you're like, Damian's definitely not woke, but like growing up, there wasn't a lot of people of color, especially that looked like me, in movies. So what attracted me to Miss Marvel was, it's like, man, this is so awesome. Like somebody's gonna watch this and they're gonna see something that they can relate to. Because like all I really had was Dante Bosco as Rufio and Hook.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I had growing up. So I actually went with the lead because, and she's very sweet in the show, but I went with Amon Villani. And I went with her because I could easily see her have a mean streak. One, I needed somebody who could be in 1995 believably attracted to Martina.
Yeah.
And to be the foil that really wants to take Martina to the dance and is just being really super dickish to George. So that was kind of my angle there because I felt like it fit for that 1995 kind of teen angst that I lived through. And at the same time, I needed somebody who I felt like could pull it off and who could, pull, even though she's a little bit older now, I don't think much. I think she's under 20 probably still, but I think she could fit into that high school role really well. And I mean, she's already played a high schooler.
Yeah.
Now she just has to play the mean one.
That's interesting.
That's a good one. I've not seen Miss Marvel, but I've seen enough of her that definitely could see how you got to
Biff.
Yeah.
Beatrice.
I mean, she is the main reason I love Miss Marvel. I mean, she's just like
so good,
so charismatic. Like you can't help but love her.
And I want her to go the other way, just because maybe that's where she gets the credibility that she deserves for Miss Marvel is playing the opposite. Denzel didn't get anywhere until they paid the bad guy. Maybe she steps up, plays the bad guy. All of a sudden, it's like, oh,
all
you got
doors
range,
are opening.
More doors open. So that was kind of where I went.
Yeah, I'm always for seeing actors kind of go against type. Like that's, I don't really have any reference for her outside of Miss Marvel. Like I can't think of anything she's been in, but yeah, I love her as an actress. I'm sure she's got that in her, so that would be interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like she would have to break the mold that way, like to get real recognition.
Yeah,
like not play the sweet high school that you played. Like go play a serial killer or something that you're just, like someone gives her a chance and people are like, oh man,
when she's figuring out her powers, there's a moment where she's like pissed because she's trying to like do the Green Lantern, make steps and like get up on this platform. and she's really pissed, and I was like, yeah, that fits. Like
Yeah.
that fits, and then it's that anger kind of like reverse. So I think it's there. It's just her tapping in, and then
And boy and girl bullying is very different too. So I mean, you already have something different going on. It's not just going to be a big brute like the original.
But I feel like 1995, she'd slap that girl.
Yeah, probably.
She'd slap our Lorraine or
Yeah.
Georgina.
Georgina.
Yeah.
That's good one. I like it. Damon, A+, man. I love the creativity outside the box, because a lot of these people just like check, done. And I was like,
I was trying
that's
to
what I
think
don't
too,
want.
like, how do I make a good movie
Mhm.
if you get the right writer, you get the right script?
Yeah.
And then the selfish part of me is like, how do I make a movie where it goes south easy too? To where
Yeah.
the
They'll never remake anything again.
Either that or the financier steps in and just,
Yeah.
Batgirl movies it and just
shelves
shelves
it,
it. And we
yeah.
never get to see this brilliant performance from,
Monvolani.
yeah.
All right,
It's
well,
interesting.
keep us going.
I definitely went the more traditional route.
How dare you?
I know. I tried not to dip into the Stranger Things well too much, but this one, when I came across his name, I was like, we've seen it already. We've seen him be a bully. I think he fits perfectly into what we're trying to do for this movie. So my pick was Dacre Montgomery. The older brother, horrible older brother, just piece of crap.
Yeah.
That ultimately has a redeeming moment in the end, but he can play that threatening villain that like like his him playing off my George, like I could see the bullying happening. I could see him being threatening to my Marty.
I can see him taking a little darker, to a darker place.
I mean, there's some pretty dark places Biff goes.
He was
Yeah.
And so he's already been there. I forget his character's name in Stranger Things, but Billy.
Yeah, it's Billy.
But yeah, I've seen him go there again. Kind of an obvious pick because I'm picking it based on him being a bully. But he's kind of got a slightly different bend to him than the Biff Tannen from the original. The Biff Tannen is kind of your typical like jock, like Letterman jacket, just bully. I feel like Dacre would take things a little more psychological with my Marty.
Yeah,
we've kind of seen that happen, but he's also just got like some actors just have that look to them, like the piercing eyes, where they're always going to be cast as a certain type.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Dacre's necessarily fallen into that like hole yet, but I definitely could have seen that. Post Stranger Things that had that like role been extended more.
He's one Biff Tannen role away from being typecast.
Exactly.
He really is. Now he needs to go the other way and play the love interest, heartthrob, good
Why
guy.
can't she be George?
Yeah.
That's
good.
So
That's good.
I dig it.
That's good. That's a good one.
Solid Biff.
Biff.
Be memorable too. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, Biff. I only had one name that came up, and I never went back because I wasn't sure. But I mean, he's the only one I had, so I kind of had to go with him. I went with Will Poulter as my Biff. He plays Adam Warlock in Guardians 3.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely started out as the nerdy guy he started out as more as the George.
He looks like Biff.
Yeah, he does. He started out as more the George character, I think, when he started acting. And then he slowly turned into... Because then in like Maze Runner, he started to become kind of a bully.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, this guy has some range. But I definitely can see him, pushing my George around and, making his life hell.
I think it's that expressive face that some people have where they can kind of play both. Because like, I think he's got a kind of face where it's like he's easy to play sad. But then when he's mad, he can play mad, and then he can play dumb because his Guardians of the Galaxy.
Adam Warlock.
Adam Warlock was.
He's
like,
wow. But I think also seeing him with my Marty would be, trying to step in, and they would have some really good back and forth, and I think he'd round out the cast and make it as good as you could, if you were to do it.
And he's got the kind of like the look of bully who's been bullied, so he's now
Yeah.
a bully.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know?
So it kind of
What a
gives him
great-
another level, and he does have that look, like he just feels that way. And it's probably true because he was like a really nerdy guy and like kind of goofy,
Yeah.
and then he glue up, and then people are like, okay, we're sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so we cast our movies; they're solid. Damian has also recast the
DeLorean.
I almost called it the Mandalorian. And I was like, as it was coming up to say, I was like, that's not right.
You paint it green, you put the logo on it.
So Damian, recast the car for us.
Well, I
Let's
did
hear
a
this.
few things. I put some notes as well,
Mhm.
but if you do it in 1995, the original plot, right? You're going back in time. It is. We later find out that it runs on gas, but like you need plutonium,
Mhm.
right? Plutonium is the issue. Can't get there. So I thought to myself, well, 1995.
Not going to be an issue.
It's not.
Yeah.
It'll be an issue, but there's more options available to find it. So I thought to myself, what could you do? You need to get a car from now. You have to get something that's stylish, but you also have to get something that's electric. So I picked the Tesla swastika. No, I'm kidding.
I thought that was where you were
No.
going. I was like, oh, no.
No. I
Fits so well with your cast.
I did think about it because I thought to myself, there's the Rivian. There's some other ones out there. I really do, and I know you'll throw a picture of this up. I liked the Lucid Air.
Mhm.
So I thought to myself, okay, Martina goes back in time, instantly kind of some of the plot from 2 because she needs to break the battery.
Mm.
What needs to happen is the lithium battery needs to get destroyed. They weren't exactly just cranking out lithium batteries.
Right.
I asked ChatGPT, could you run one of those cars? They were like, absolutely not. Like a standard battery would probably get you like 3 feet. Right. Like it would power up the dash and then, whatever. So that was kind of like where I played into recasting the car. I was like, it has to be something that's stylish. It has to be like one of those one-offs because that's basically what DeLorean was.
Mhm.
And then it has to move the plot forward because you can't use a DeLorean again as much as I'm sure everybody would want to. Hollywood would definitely try to recast the DeLorean as well.
Yeah.
I felt like it had to be an electric car. It had to be something that could push the plot forward, give us a reason to create the 1.21 gigawatts if we stick with that story.
Right.
Doubtful that's what you're going to need to run the lithium battery, but it does make sense that you would not have lithium readily available. So I recast the car as well.
That makes sense. And that does make sense. That's,
I mean, if you're going to recast the DeLorean, why not just go crazy with it and just make it the Michael Keaton Batmobile? It's a replica here in the present. They have it in 95 already.
I mean, that it is an interesting idea, right? Because what is Tina Fey gonna realistically get?
Yeah.
Mm.
So
she got in an auction,
and maybe that's the case, right? So you could go that way. I'm just saying that, like,
in next week's episode where you make the movie and you get to watch it.
But I didn't think like there would be any reason. Like, make it make sense to the time period, make it make sense to the time period it ends up. I mean, if it's whatever car, because initially my dumb brain was like, what cars were popular in 1995? I'm like, that's not how the movie works, dum-dum. It was a car from that time. It wasn't a car from that time.
Right.
Oh, because an Acura NSX would be sick.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about it and I was like, why the hell would Tina Fey?
We can't question why she does what she does.
Why would a scientist have a NSX? And I was like, but a scientist might have an electric car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Moreover, they might actually have an electric car that they made themselves.
Right. Yeah. It might be a makeshift.
But she would definitely have to put a flux capacitor in there somehow.
I like it. It rounds out your retelling of.
Yeah, because I just like, how does this make sense in 2025? Like, there has to be something that moves the plot forward, and
something we can get at Walmart.
Yeah, probably
not.
30 years back. So it's like, well, plutonium.
Yeah.
You're in Hill Valley, California. I'm sure there's an Air Force base close in 1995. You go head over to Travis and you just figure it out.
That's right. I like it. We definitely have 3 very different movies, but the essence of it, I think, is all the same. The heart of it is still there.
Yeah, I mean that's what
get greenlit.
Yeah, this will never get greenlit.
No,
but-
Damian's might when if you
Yeah.
get the right people in charge of a studio.
Yeah.
maybe.
I appreciate that, but I mean,
But again, it also could do the opposite.
it ends up being Ghostbusters, and you're just like, cool, dude. Like, thanks for wrecking this.
I like it. I would definitely watch all three of these.
At least out of morbid curiosity, at the
Yeah.
very least.
And even when they remake something, I'm like, God, that's stupid. I still need to go watch it.
I mean, realistically, how much more time do you think needs to pass? Do you think it's just us Gen Xers, like all Gen Xers die, and then this is possible?
I don't know.
I think everything gets remade eventually. I mean, we were talking earlier. As long as Zemeckis is still around, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think Bob Gale said flat out,
Bob
"You're gonna have to
Gale's
wait
like,
till I
no.
die."
Yeah, it's like in his.
And even then, I feel like there'd be a lot of hurdles. Like, they went through with Bond recently. A lot of hurdles
Yeah.
to get through to even get it to a point where you could. And I don't know if they want to do that for that franchise.
And I mean,
don't know.
and the longer we go, like the lesser the impact the IP has, I think, with people.
Yeah.
And so, like, Back to the Future is one of those where people love it because of the characters, because of Michael J. Fox's Marty, because of Christopher Lloyd's Doc. Like, there's plenty of ways to do Back to the Future without doing Back to the Future. And I think that's ultimately the route someone will end up going. It'll be a Back to the Future knockoff, but not like actually Back to the Future.
But try to capture what it
Yeah.
captured without actually
Yeah.
rebooting it.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope I don't see the day when they do. Damian, where can we find your content?
All right. Well, you can find me. It's Bourbon Bass Barbells, all one word. I do the best on Instagram, so you can follow me there. I do have a YouTube channel that shorts are posted. I basically just talk about bourbon. The bass portion was supposed to be me talking about music and movies, but I'm lazy. And then Barbells, I'll post me at the
The
gym.
movie
once
portion
in a
can
while.
be
Yeah.
here when you come join
Yeah.
Cinema Clubhouse.
So I'll
podcast.
finally have
Yeah.
like some bass content to post. But yeah, if you're into bourbon and like to watch an old man lift weights, those are pretty much the
We found your
videos. Yeah.
the thing you've been missing. That is Damian.
But as
If
you can
that
tell,
is your niche.
I love movies, man. I probably need to talk about it more. I was so upset with you guys when you did Indiana Jones without me. Then
And there was bound to be someone upset with us. Well,
and then you had 8 more episodes, and I was just like, "Cool, you did Bond. All right, that's neat." And so, like, all these things that I know a lot
we
about.
saved this one for you.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know the director. I'm rattling off director names and movie names.
Hey, you know your stuff. You're not just like, here's the people that I
second unit
just searched
grip.
today. Well, let us know what you think of our picks. How bad did we do? Do you like them? Are you going to see Damian's movie? Maybe. Make sure to follow Damian on his channels. Follow us here. Like, subscribe. Tell us your picks in the comments. We want to know who you would recast in this movie, and please, why this should never be made. Until next time, this is the Cinema Clubhouse podcast. We don't know how to end it.